My name is Ramona Denton, and I'm going to tell you my story of the greatest loss that I suffered in a stroke that I had about 6 months ago. I am 63 years old, and I have been a Christian for about 40 years. So, about 40 years ago, when I was 22 years old, I got born again. I made a decision to believe in Jesus Christ for my salvation. And I started walking by faith. I started learning how to walk by faith. So, I learned facts about God. I learned facts about Jesus and how he died to redeem the world from their sins. And in my heart, I believed these facts that I learned, and somehow my brain and my heart connected, and I had a rock solid sense of mental stability. I had a rock solid sense of emotional stability, and I knew in Jesus I would be okay. I am okay. I would always be okay. Jesus died for me, and even no matter what happened in this world, I was going to heaven when I died. So I was okay. I was going to be okay. A rock solid sense of well-being. Now, I told you I had a stroke about 6 months ago. I woke up in the hospital the next day after I was admitted for my stroke. I woke up in the hospital, and that sense of well-being was gone. Completely gone. I was not okay. I had had a stroke. I didn't know how bad that was. I didn't know if I was going to be okay sooner, if I was going to be okay later, if it would take months, if it would take years to heal from a stroke. I didn't know any of those things at that time. So I was just very overwhelmed. I was very traumatized. I was very scared. Because this thing I depend on, my sense of well-being, was gone. So friends came and visited me in the hospital, and they would say, God loves you. They'd say, we're praying for you. And I would feel inside, though I was afraid to admit it to anybody, I would feel inside, well, that's great, but give me something I can use, because that didn't make me feel better. You know, if they would have put their arms around me maybe and said, oh, honey, you're going to be fine. You're going to be okay. Maybe that could have made me feel better to know I'm okay. But that's not what happened. So, another ability I lost having this stroke is I could not do this. You see, I'm touching each one of my fingers to my thumb. What happens in a stroke is I had a brain clot in my brain. This was an ischemic stroke. So while the clot was in my brain, it deprived my brain of oxygen. And the places where we're deprived of oxygen, thousands and possibly millions of neurons died. So what happens is the part of my brain that connects my brain and my hand's ability to do this, that was severed. That died. So what happens is, for the last 6 months, I have done these muscle motions. I have done this exercise thousands of times. And now I have a neural pathway in my brain that connects to these fingers so that when I say do this, my hand can do it. And so there's a neuromuscular problem. There's a neuromuscular disconnection. But I learned that can also happen with these connections between your brain and your heart, your brain and your emotions. We talk about this brain-heart connection in like modern psychological terms, you know. So, you know, in your heart you believe, and that makes you, you know, I don't know. I have my beliefs and my facts in my brain, and I walk by that faith in Jesus Christ. And I've done that for like 40 years, and I've never known that to really let me down. But now I'm in the hospital. I've just had a stroke, and that has let me down. And I don't know how to get better. I don't know what to do. So I come home from the hospital. I live alone, so I came home and started recovering. One of the things I did for my recovery is I found a new primary care provider. So I went to see her and asked her if she would supervise my stroke aftercare. And I started going once a month to this primary care provider and say, look, I'm worried about this. I'm worried about this. They tell me because I've just had a stroke, I'm really hugely likely to have another stroke. They call that a secondary stroke. And I don't want to do that. So I'm doing this to prevent that. I'm doing this to recover from this current stroke. And the main thing in my case that I needed to do was to deal with type 2 diabetes. So I told her, I've signed up at this metabolic clinic to reverse my type 2 diabetes so that my blood sugars and my insulin will be normal and that would not cause a second stroke. So I told her everything I'm worried about, and she says, you're doing everything you can. You're doing all the right things. So keep doing those things and you're going to be fine. You're doing great. So I'd come back a month later and say, well, I read about this and this and this, and I'm worried about this and this and this. And she'd say, you're doing everything you can do and you're doing a really good job. So you're going to be fine. You're doing the best. You're doing everything right. And so 3, 4, 5 months, I'd come every month and tell her what I'm worried about. And she would tell me that I was okay and I was doing the right things. So I had this bad day one day where I just wanted to rage. I wanted to cry and I wanted to yell and scream at people. And I didn't know how to make that go away. I didn't know how to feel better. I just was not okay and I didn't know how to get okay. So I remembered this story. One time I was driving from Los Angeles to San Francisco on my motorcycle. And I was having a kind of a bad day and I was a little bit angry. And I realized that if you're angry when you're driving a motorcycle, you could make a poor decision on the road and it can cost you your life if you make a dumb decision when you're driving a motorcycle. So I went to McDonald's. I ate one of those McGriddle sandwiches. I filled up on Dr. Pepper, so I had a bunch of sugar. And I went back to my bike and I was fine. And I drove all the way to San Francisco with no incidents. So I'm thinking, I'm having a really bad day. Maybe I could just eat sugar and I'd feel better. Well, maybe I would have. However, I've just been working really hard for 4 or 5 months trying to reverse my type 2 diabetes, and my blood sugar was almost down to normal. And I didn't want to eat a bunch of sugar and ruin all that progress that I had made. So I didn't eat any sugar. But I also didn't ever get to feel any better. So that month when I went to see the primary care, I said, what should I do on a day like that? Should I just take the sugar and take the hit in my blood sugar? Should I try a cup of coffee with caffeine? Should I try and get a pill, an antidepressant, or some sort of feel-good pill we have these days? Should I do something like that? What should I do? And I said, there's always a possibility that I could simply just pray through it and don't take any chemical help. However, should I suffer all day? Should I just say, it's the 21st century. Why not just take the pill? Why should I suffer? So we talked about that. And I go home from that appointment and I did have another bad day. So I focused hard in my brain. I focused on remembering a memory, a time that I did feel okay, a time that I had a good sense of well-being. And I focused on that. And I started doing that every time I was having a bad day. So that one morning I got up and I looked at my computer and I was doing I'm a technical writer. I work remotely. So I was working at my job and all of a sudden I realized, hey, I feel okay. I know I'm going to be okay now. Something happened. Something clicked in my brain. So that the same way that neuroplastic connection happened so that I could do this, it happened so that I could have a sense of well-being emotionally. And I knew then that I was going to be okay. So that month when I went to see my primary care, I got to report to her, hey, I don't need to see you every month anymore because I'm okay now. I can just tell you I'm okay. That neural pathway got reestablished. And she's like, that is wonderful. That is perfect. Practicing the memories of remembering when you were okay has helped you to form that connection so that you're okay again. That's wonderful. You did a great job at that. So that sense of well-being is the greatest thing I lost, my biggest loss that I had when I had a stroke. It's the greatest thing to return to me because now I can pray, I can exercise my faith in my brain, and it makes a difference in my emotions. My emotions are stable, and I'm secure in my faith in Jesus Christ because my brain and my heart can talk to each other again. So now that I can articulate what I lost and how I got it back, now that I can, if I have a day like that again, and I say, I'm not okay, I need to hear somebody outside my own brain tell me that I'm going to be okay. I don't need to go to the doctor to do that anymore. I could just go to my friends and say, hey, could you please just reassure me that I'm going to be okay? Could you give me a hug and tell me I'm okay? And I can get that. Any one of my friends would do that for me. So, anyways, that's my story about the worst loss that I suffered having a ischemic stroke about 6 months ago at the age of 62. I'm 63 now, but I'm recovering very well from my stroke because I am practicing everything I need, everything I'm trying to get back that I lost in the stroke. I practice to try and work through neuroplasticity in my brain to rebuild those connections. So I reach into the cupboard to get my coffee pod, and my arm feels like it's weighted down or like someone's injected concrete into my veins. And it's really difficult to do that thing. And so I keep practicing that with my affected arm. And one day that neuro pathway is going to reestablish itself, and then it's going to be, oh, yes, I can feel my arm again. This is my arm and my brain works to move it around. So that'll be great. So anyways, that's my story. That's one of the things I lost in my stroke that I worked very hard to get it back, and it's back now. And I'm very, very thankful that I have mental stability and emotional stability and a rock solid sense of well-being by faith in Jesus Christ. So, thank you for listening, and amen.